"Do you mind if I take these old fruits?" said the pregnant mother. The response is unbelievable. Ashley Wilson was in her 7th month of pregnancy when she decided to face another day of humiliation. Her 3 children waited at home as she walked through the aisles of the Oakland Farmers Market, searching for kindness among the vendors. When she approached Robert Johnson's fruit stand, her hands trembled slightly. It was Wednesday, the same day she always came, hoping for leftovers no one else wanted. "Excuse me, sir," she said softly, almost inaudibly. "Do you mind if I take these old fruits?" Robert Johnson stopped arranging the apples and looked at her. He was a 45-year-old man, with strong arms and an expression that usually seemed too stern for customers. He had worked at that stand for 3 years, ever since his wife Jennifer had passed, and he needed to keep busy. "The bruised ones?" he asked, eyeing her protruding belly. "Yes, if you weren't going to use them anyway. It's just, I have 3 kids at home and—" She couldn't finish the sentence. Shame overwhelmed her every time she had to explain her situation. Robert noticed how she gripped the edge of the counter as if she needed support to stand. For a moment, he just watched her. There was something familiar about that tired face, those eyes that carried more weight than a 30-year-old woman should bear. Without a word, he grabbed a large bag and began filling it with slightly bruised oranges, apples, and bananas. "Take these too," he said, adding some perfectly good fruit to the mix. Ashley's eyes widened. "No, sir. I only wanted the ones that are—" "Just take it before I change my mind." The sharp voice of Mrs. Thompson echoed through the stand before Ashley could thank him. "Robert Johnson, what do you think you're doing?" The market owner approached with firm steps, her grey hair pulled into a tight bun and an expression that could freeze water. At 62, she had ruled that place with an iron fist for over 2 decades. "I'm giving away fruit that was going to spoil anyway, Mrs. Thompson." "Spoil? Those apples cost $4 a pound. Do you think I work here for free?" Ashley instinctively stepped back, clutching the bag to her chest. The situation was growing tense, and she didn't want to cause trouble for the vendor who had been kind to her. "I'll pay," she murmured. "How much is it?" $25, Mrs. Thompson replied without hesitation. Ashley's face paled. That was exactly the money she had saved for powdered milk for the baby on the way. Robert saw the desperation in her eyes and felt something stir in his chest. "Forget it, ma'am. You don't have to pay anything." "Of course she does." Mrs. Thompson stepped between them. "Or you pay out of your own pocket, Robert Johnson." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. It was at that tense moment that something unexpected happened. Ashley, nervous and trying to step away quickly, stumbled slightly, and a small yellowed photo fell from her torn purse. The image slid across the ceramic floor until it landed right at Robert's feet. When he bent down to pick it up, his world stopped. It was a black and white photo, faded with time, showing a young woman in a white uniform holding a baby. In the corner, someone had written in blue ink, "Jennifer, Mercy General Hospital, 1994. Robert's legs nearly gave way. Jennifer, his late wife. She had never mentioned working with babies at the hospital. Actually, whenever he asked about her years of nursing before they got married, she would change the subject. "Miss," he called, but Ashley was already hurrying out of the market. "Let her go," muttered Mrs. Thompson, "and hand me that photo. Probably just trash that fell out of her bag." "No." Robert Johnson tucked the photo into his shirt pocket, right over his heart. "I'll return it to her." For the rest of the day, he couldn't focus on work. That photo stirred something deep in his memory. Jennifer always had a special way with children, but never wanted any of her own. She said she'd already cared for too many kids in her life. When the market closed at 6, Robert went to the bus stop where he'd seen Ashley waiting before. An older woman selling candy nearby recognized her. "Oh, the pregnant lady? She lives over at Gary's boarding house on Maple Street. Poor thing, always with those little kids clinging to her skirt." Gary's boarding house was an old 2-story building with peeling paint and a small courtyard where a few children played. Robert climbed the creaky wooden stairs until he reached apartment 7. When he knocked, a little girl about 5 years old answered, "Mommy, there's a man here." Ashley appeared at the door. surprised and a little frightened. She was wearing the same clothes from that morning, but now had flour on her hands. "Sir, what are you doing here?" "You dropped this," Robert said, holding up the photo. Ashley's face changed completely, a mix of relief and panic. "My photo. I thought I'd lost it forever." She reached out with trembling hands, but Robert didn't hand it over right away. "May I come in? I need to talk to you about this photo." Ashley hesitated. She wasn't used to visitors, especially strange men, but something in his eyes seemed sincere. "The kids are eating. Maybe we should talk here in the hallway." "All right. This woman in the photo. Did you know her?" "Know her?" Ashley smiled sadly. "Aunt Jennifer was the only person who was ever kind to me when I was little." "Why do you want to know?" Robert felt a tightness in his chest. "Aunt Jennifer. She was my wife." The silence that followed was broken only by the sounds of children playing in the courtyard. Ashley leaned against the door as if she needed support. "Your wife, but she never married. She always told me she dedicated her whole life to the abandoned babies at the hospital." "Abandoned babies?" "Yes. She took special care of the children left at the maternity ward. I was one of them." Pieces of a puzzle Robert never knew existed began falling into place. Jennifer had always been private about her past, but now he was starting to understand why. "How long have you had this photo?" "Forever. She gave it to me when I turned 18 and left the orphanage. Said it was so I'd remember someone cared about me." Mrs. Jenkins, the boarding house owner, appeared in the hallway carrying a bucket of dirty water. "Ashley, you know visitors aren't allowed after 6. House rules." "Sorry, Mrs. Jenkins, he was just leaving." "Better be. And while he's here, I'll remind you the rent's a week late. If it's not paid by Friday, you'll have to go." The humiliation on Ashley's face was obvious. Robert felt anger rising inside him. "How much does she owe?" $200, but that's none of your business, mister." "I'll pay," Robert said, pulling out his wallet. "No." Ashley stepped between them. "I won't take charity. I've got enough shame in my life already." "It's not charity, it's a debt. Jennifer always wanted to help you, I'm sure. Let me do this for her." "Is your wife alive? Can I talk to her?" Robert Johnson lowered his head. "Jennifer passed away 3 years ago. A sudden heart problem." "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know." Mrs. Jenkins watched the scene impatiently. "You two sort out this money issue. I have other things to do." After she walked away, Ashley Wilson looked directly into Robert Johnson's eyes. "Why do you want to help me?" "You don't even know me." "Because Jennifer knew you and she never mentioned you to me, which means you were very important to her. Too important to share. Aunt Jennifer was always like that. She said some things were secrets of the heart." Ethan, Ashley's 8-year-old son, appeared at the door. "Mom, we're out of rice." "I'll take care of it, sweetheart." Robert noticed how the boy looked at him with curiosity mixed with suspicion. It was natural. Probably few people visited that family. "Look, at least let me pay the rent. You don't have to accept anything else from me, but let me do this." As Jennifer's last wish. Ashley wrestled with herself. Pride told her to refuse, but the reality of 3 children waiting for food said otherwise. "All right, but just the rent, and I'll pay you back as soon as I get a job." "You don't work." "I do cleaning jobs, but now at the end of my pregnancy, it's hard to find work. People are afraid I might get sick cleaning their houses." Robert paid the rent to Mrs. Jenkins and said goodbye, promising to return the next day to talk more about Jennifer. The whole way home, his mind buzzed with questions. How had Jennifer met Ashley? Why had she never mentioned her? And most importantly, were there other children she'd helped that he didn't know about? The next morning, Robert arrived at the market earlier than usual. He needed to work, but couldn't get Ashley out of his mind. Mrs. Thompson noticed his distraction. "You've been acting strange since yesterday. Don't tell me you're thinking about that pregnant woman." "That's none of your business, Mrs. Thompson." "Of course it is. You work for me, and if you're distracted, it could cost me. Besides, I heard you went after her yesterday." Robert stopped organizing the fruit and stared at his boss. "Who told you that?" A neighbor of mine lives near the boarding house. Said you paid the girls overdue rent. So what? So you're being a fool. Those people just want to take advantage of your kindness. Next thing you know, she'll be showing up here all the time asking for more. Jennifer helped people in need too. Mrs. Thompson made a strange face as if she'd swallowed something bitter. Jennifer was different. She knew who she was dealing with. You knew my wife? Of course I did. Oakland isn't that big. Everyone knew Nurse Jennifer. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us newcomers. Now, continuing. Robert realized Mrs. Thompson knew more than she was saying, but before he could ask anything else, Ashley appeared at the market entrance. She walked slowly, as if each step took effort. "Good morning," she said timidly. "Good morning. How are you feeling?" "Better, thank you. I came to return the rent money." She held out a $50 bill. "This is all I have for now, but I promise I'll pay the rest little by little." Robert looked at the money in his hand, and then at her. "Where did you get this?" "I got a cleaning job last night. The lady paid me in advance because she really needs me to clean this morning." "You worked at night while 7 months pregnant?" "I have to work, Mr. Johnson. I have responsibilities." Mrs. Thompson approached with an even sourer expression than usual. "Back already asking for more fruit?" "No, ma'am, I came to pay my debt." "What debt? You didn't buy anything yesterday." "Mr. Robert Johnson paid my rent. I'm paying him back." "Paying back?" Mrs. Thompson looked at Robert Johnson with disdain. "See? I warned you, these people just want to take advantage." "Mrs. Thompson, please," Robert Johnson tried to intervene. "No, let her speak," said Ashley, finding an inner strength that surprised everyone. "You think I came here to take advantage of someone?" "I don't think it, I'm sure of it." "Then you're mistaken. I came to return the money I was loaned and to thank the kindness. If that's taking advantage, then I'm sorry, but I don't know what honesty is." Ashley's firm tone caught Mrs. Thompson off guard. Robert Johnson felt a strange pride, as if he were seeing Jennifer defend someone who needed protection. "Listen here, young lady." "No, you listen." Ashley's voice rose. "I may be poor, I may be pregnant and struggling, but I have dignity, and I won't let anyone call me a freeloader when all I did was thank someone for their kindness." People around them began to stop and watch the argument. Robert Johnson noticed some customers watching with curiosity, others with sympathy for Ashley. "You're right," said Robert Johnson, "and Mrs. Thompson is wrong." "Robert Johnson," the boss turned on him. "She is wrong. This young woman came here to return money she didn't have to. That shows her character." Ashley felt her legs wobble and leaned on the fruit counter. The tension and physical strain from the night before were taking their toll. "Are you okay?" Robert Johnson asked, holding her arm. Just a little dizzy." "Sit here." He brought a stool from behind the counter. Mrs. Thompson rolled her eyes. "Now she's putting on a show for attention." "Enough," Robert Johnson snapped. "She's pregnant and you're saying these things. Where's your humanity?" "My humanity is minding my business and not letting anyone take advantage of my employees." An elderly man who bought fruit there every week stepped forward. "Mrs. Thompson, with all due respect, but you're being too harsh on the girl. Anyone can see she's not well." "No one asked for your opinion, Mr. Williams." "Maybe not, but I'll give it anyway. This girl needs help, not a lecture." Others began to agree with Mr. Williams. Mrs. Thompson realized she was losing control of the situation. "Everyone get back to your shopping. This show has gone on long enough." Ashley tried to stand, but the dizziness hit harder. "I think I should take you to the hospital," said Robert Johnson. "No, I don't have money for a doctor. There's a clinic nearby, it's free." "Robert Johnson, you're not leaving the store to take this woman to the doctor," Mrs. Thompson ordered. "Yes, I am. Fire me if you want." The tension thickened. Robert Johnson helped Ashley up and walked her toward the market exit. Mrs. Thompson watched them leave with an expression mixing anger and something deeper, something that looked like pain. At the clinic, the on-duty doctor examined Ashley and diagnosed malnutrition and low blood pressure. "Ma'am, you need to eat better. The pregnancy is draining all your energy reserves." "I eat what I can, doctor." "It's not enough. The baby needs nutrients to develop properly." "You're at risk of a premature birth." Robert Johnson listened from outside the office. When they left, he had an offer. Let me help with food, not as charity, but as a late payment from Jennifer. Late payment. Jennifer always said she had debts of the heart to settle. Now I understand what she meant. Ashley stopped walking and looked at him. You barely even know me. Why are you doing this? Because Jennifer knew you. And if she thought you deserved care, then you really do. But I can't accept it. You're already helping me too much. Then consider it a loan. When the baby is born and you're back to working normally, you can pay me back. During the conversation, they arrived at the boarding house. Ethan was playing in the yard with his younger sisters, 6-year-old Emma and 4-year-old Ava. When they saw their mother arriving with someone, they ran to her. "Mom, are you okay?" Ethan asked. "I'm fine, sweetheart. I just had to go to the doctor." "And who's he?" Emma asked, pointing at Robert Johnson. "He's the man who works at the market. He helped me when I wasn't feeling well." Ava, the youngest, hid behind her mother. Robert crouched down to the children's level. "Hey guys, do you help your mom around the house?" "We do," Ethan answered proudly. "I can make instant noodles, and I watch my sisters when Mom goes to work." Robert felt a pang in his heart. An 8-year-old taking on responsibilities he shouldn't have. "That's great, you're really smart kids." Mrs. Jenkins appeared at the boarding house door. "Ashley, you're back. Did everything go okay at the appointment?" "Yes, thank you." "Mrs. Jenkins, this is Mr. Robert Johnson." "Oh, you're the one who paid the rent yesterday. That was very kind of you." "It was the least I could do." "Well, you all figure things out. But remember, visitors only until 6 o'clock. After Mrs. Jenkins walked away, Robert said goodbye to Ashley and the kids. On his way home, he stopped at a supermarket and bought basic groceries: rice, beans, oil, sugar, powdered milk, bread, and some fruit. He returned to the boarding house and left the bags at the front desk with a note: "For the kids to eat well, Robert Johnson." Over the next few days, Robert settled into a routine. Every morning before opening his stall, he quickly stopped by the bakery near the boarding house and left fresh bread for Ashley and the children. He did it discreetly, not wanting to draw attention. Mrs. Thompson noticed he was arriving a little later to work, but didn't say anything. Since the argument at the market, she had been more reserved, as if something was troubling her. The following Thursday, Ashley showed up at the market earlier than usual. She looked worried. "Mr. Johnson, I need to talk to you." "Of course. What's wrong?" "I found out who's been leaving food for me every day." Robert felt his face grow warm. "How did you find out?" "Mrs. Parker, who lives on the first floor, told me she saw you leaving bags at the front desk several times." "Why didn't you tell me it was you?" "Because I knew you wouldn't accept it." "And I won't. I already told you I don't want charity." "It's not charity, Ashley. It's love. The love Jennifer had for you that she can't show anymore." The word love made Ashley swallow hard. It had been so long since anyone had used that word about her, not even in the sense of care and protection. "But you barely know me. I know enough to know Jennifer loved you like a daughter, and if she loved you, I can too." Mrs. Thompson, who was organizing the cash register nearby, stopped what she was doing. The conversation had caught her attention in a way she hadn't expected. "Aunt Jennifer never said she had a husband," Ashley murmured, "and she never told me she had a daughter in her heart. You two kept secrets from each other. Maybe because both of you knew some truths hurt too much to share." Robert realized the depth of that observation. Ashley, despite all her vulnerability, had a wisdom that came from suffering. "What truths couldn't you share with Jennifer?" "That I always dreamed of having a real family, and she always dreamed of helping me have a better life, but she couldn't because she didn't have enough. She left me some money when she passed. Not much, but enough to help you now. Please don't keep insisting on this. I need to learn to stand on my own." "Nobody has to stand alone, Ashley. Not even proud people like you." Mrs. Thompson approached them with a strange look on her face. "Sorry to interrupt, but I need to say something." "What is it, Mrs. Thompson?" "It's about this story with Jennifer and the abandoned babies." Robert Johnson and Ashley exchanged glances, surprised by their landlady's sudden interest. "What about Jennifer?" She wasn't the only one taking care of those babies at the hospital." What do you mean? Mrs. Thompson took a deep breath, as if preparing to reveal something difficult. There were other people involved, people who had made decisions about those children's fates. Her mysterious tone put Robert on alert. What kind of decisions? Decisions about which babies stayed at the orphanage and which were given up for private adoption. Ashley felt a chill. Do you know something about my past? Mrs. Thompson avoided her gaze. I know not all the children who went through the hospital had the same luck as you. What luck? I spent 16 years in an orphanage. At least you stayed there. Some were given to people who shouldn't have had children. The silence that followed was heavy. Robert felt they were getting close to something important, something that would change everything they thought they knew about Jennifer and Ashley's past. Mrs. Thompson, you're speaking in riddles. If you know something, just say it. I can't talk here. Too many people passing by. Then tell us after work. No, it's better if you come to my house tonight. St. George Avenue, number 245, at 8 o'clock. After this cryptic conversation, Mrs. Thompson walked away and didn't bring it up again for the rest of the day. Robert grew restless, and Ashley, who had left soon after, couldn't stop thinking about the market owner's words. At 8 that night, Robert knocked on Mrs. Thompson's door. It was a simple but well-kept house with a small garden in the back. Ashley arrived a few minutes later, leaving the kids with Mrs. Jenkins. Come in, said Mrs. Thompson, looking more serious than ever. The living room was small and cozy, with old furniture and many photographs on the walls. Robert noticed several pictures of a little girl, always alone, never with adults. Sit, she said, serving coffee in small porcelain cups. Mrs. Thompson, you said you knew things about Jennifer and the hospital babies, Robert began. I do. But before I tell you, you need to understand this will change a lot of things. Change how? Ashley, do you know anything about your biological family? Nothing. I was always told I was left at the hospital door when I was just a few days old. That's not quite true. Ashley's heart raced. What do you mean? Mrs. Thompson stood and went to an old cabinet, pulling out a yellowed folder. She returned and placed it on the table. You weren't left at the hospital door, Ashley. You were given up by someone in your family. Given up by who? By your older sister. The revelation hit like lightning. Ashley felt the world spin around her. Sister, I have a sister? You did, you do. She was 16 when she gave you to Jennifer. Robert looked at Mrs. Thompson with growing suspicion. How do you know all this? Mrs. Thompson opened the folder and took out some old documents. Because I was there. I was the sister who gave you to Jennifer, Ashley. The silence that followed was deafening. Ashley stared at Mrs. Thompson as if seeing a ghost. You're my sister. I am. And all these years, I've known exactly where you were. Tears began streaming down Ashley's face without her even realizing it. Why? Why did you give me away? Because our parents had just lost their lives in a bus accident. I was 16 and you were just a 3-month-old baby. I had no job, no money, no one to help me. But you could have kept me. We could have stayed together. With what money? Sleeping where? Eating what? Ashley's anger exploded all at once. So you thought it was better to hand me over to strangers and go on with your life? I didn't go on with my life, Mrs. Thompson shouted back. Do you think it was easy for me? Do you think a single day passed when I didn't think about you? If you thought about me so much, why did you never show up? Because I made a promise to Jennifer. I promised I would only come into your life if you really needed me. Robert Johnson, who had been silent, processing the revelation, finally spoke. That's why you knew so much about Jennifer. That's why you knew the story about abandoned babies. Jennifer would come to me once a year to tell me how you were doing. When you left the orphanage, she'd tell me if you were well, if you had a job, if you were happy. And she never told me you existed. Because I asked her not to. I thought it would be better for you to live your life without knowing you'd been rejected by your own family. But I wasn't rejected. Ashley's voice came out hoarse. I was abandoned. It wasn't abandonment, it was survival. Your survival. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, back to the story. The argument between the two sisters grew more intense. Robert could see years of buried pain rising to the surface all at once. Survival. Ashley stood up from her chair. Do you know what it's like to grow up not knowing who you are? Where you came from, if you even had family? Yes, I do, because I grew up alone too. Do you think anyone took care of me after I gave you away? You were 16. I was a baby. And at 16, do you think you're an adult? That you know how to raise a child? We could have learned together. We could have starved together. We could have lived on the streets together. Is that what you wanted? Robert stepped between them. Stop. Both of you have been suffering for years because of this. Arguing now won't change the past. But it can change the future, Ashley said, wiping her tears. If she really is my sister, I want to know everything. I want to know who our parents were, how they died, what happened to you after you gave me away. Mrs. Thompson sat back down, visibly shaken. Our parents were George and Margaret Wilson. He was a truck driver. She was a seamstress. You were born when I was 13. Our parents spent 3 years trying to teach me how to take care of you because they knew they had health problems. What problems? Dad had diabetes and Mom had high blood pressure. They both knew they wouldn't live long. When you turned 3 months old, they went to visit our aunt in Concord. The bus went off the road on a curve and she couldn't finish the sentence. And you were left alone with me. I was. For 2 months I tried to handle everything, but the money they had saved ran out. The landlord wanted to evict us. You were always sick because I didn't know how to properly care for a baby. So you decided to give me away. So I decided to give you to someone who could take better care of you than I could. And why Jennifer specifically? Because she was known at Mercy General Hospital for taking good care of the babies who came in. I went to her, told her the situation, and she promised she'd find a good family for you. But she didn't. I went to the orphanage. Because a few families showed interest, but Jennifer didn't like any of them. She said you deserved a family who would truly love you, not just want a child for any reason. Robert Johnson finally understood why Jennifer never wanted children of her own. She already cared for so many kids who needed love that she didn't feel the need to bring more into the world. And you? What happened to you after that? I went to live with a family who gave me shelter in exchange for housework. I worked as a maid until I was 18, when I saved enough money to rent a small room and work for myself. And you never tried to see me again? I tried many times, but Jennifer said you were doing fine at the orphanage, that you had friends, that you were studying. I thought it would be selfish of me to show up in your life just to ease my guilt. Guilt for what? You were just a child too. Guilt for not being strong enough to keep our family together. Ashley Wilson looked at this 62-year-old woman and for the first time didn't see the strict boss from the market, but a 16-year-old girl who had to make the hardest decision of her life. Did you always know I'd show up at the market? No. When Jennifer married Robert Johnson, she stopped coming to give me updates about you. I heard she passed 3 years ago, but I didn't know where you were. When you showed up asking for fruit, I almost fainted. That's why you were always so rude to me, because I didn't know how to react. All these years, I dreamed of the day we'd meet, but when it happened, I was scared. Scared of what? Scared you'd hate me. Scared you wouldn't forgive me. Scared your life had been worse because of me. Robert Johnson realized both Ashley and Mrs. Thompson had carried immense pain for years, each thinking the other was better off without them. And now, he asked, what will you do with this truth? Ashley and Mrs. Thompson exchanged glances. There was so much to say, so much to forgive, so much to rebuild. I don't know, Ashley admitted. For 30 years, I hated the person who abandoned me, and now I find out that person was also a child in pain. And I spent 30 years hating myself for making that decision, Mrs. Thompson said, even though I knew it was the only thing I could do. Maybe, Robert suggested, you could start slow, get to know each other again. Ashley, your kids have an aunt they've never met. Mrs. Thompson, you have nieces and nephews you didn't even know existed. That's true, Mrs. Thompson murmured. Jennifer always told me you married young, but when she stopped updating me, I didn't know you had children. 3 kids, Ashley said with a sad smile. Ethan, who's 8, Emma, 6, and Ava, 4, and another on the way. 4 grandchildren, Mrs. Thompson whispered, as if tasting a sweet word. Where's their father? She asked hesitantly. He left when he found out I was pregnant with Ava, said he didn't want any more responsibilities. So you're raising them all alone? I am. And it's been hard, but they're my life. Mrs. Thompson stood and walked to the window, staring at the dark street. Ashley, I know I don't have the right to ask for forgiveness after all this time. I know my decision caused you so much pain. It did. But now that I know the circumstances, I'm not sure I'd have done differently. What do you mean? If I were a 16-year-old girl alone in the world with a baby, I don't know if I'd have been brave enough to care for them. Maybe I'd have done the same as you. Ashley's honesty surprised everyone, even herself. So, you forgive me? It means I'm trying to understand, and understanding is a start to forgiving. Robert Johnson felt a deep emotion watching those 2 women trying to heal wounds that had been bleeding for decades. And you, Ruth? Can you forgive yourself? I don't know yet, but for the first time in 30 years, I feel like it might be possible. They talked until almost midnight, sharing fragmented memories of their parents, speaking about the years of separation, trying to fill the gaps of 3 lost decades. When Ashley returned to the boarding house, she found the children sleeping in Mrs. Jenkins's room. The owner's kind gesture moved her even more. How did the conversation go? Asked Mrs. Jenkins. I discovered I have a family I didn't know existed. Family is always good even when it arrives late. The next morning, Ashley woke with a strange feeling. For the first time in years, she didn't feel completely alone in the world. There was a sister, there was Robert, who cared for her like a father. There was even the possibility of a different future. When she arrived at the market, she found an unusual scene. Mrs. Thompson was arranging a basket of fruit, while Robert watched her in surprise. Good morning, Ashley said timidly. Good morning, replied Mrs. Thompson, seeming equally awkward. I'm preparing a basket for you to take home. A basket? I thought your children might like fresh fruit, and you need to eat well because of the baby. It was the first time Mrs. Thompson had shown public care for Ashley. Robert smiled, sensing something was changing between the 2 sisters. Thank you, Ashley said, touched. Can I bring the children to meet you? You would like that? Very much. They need to know they have an aunt. And I need to meet my nieces and nephews. In the days that followed, a new rhythm took shape. Ashley brought the children to the market after school, and Mrs. Thompson gradually grew accustomed to their energy and joy. Ethan, the oldest, was the first to warm up to his aunt. He was an observant boy and quickly noticed that Mrs. Thompson wasn't used to children, but she was trying. Aunt Ruth, why didn't you ever come visit us before? He asked with the frankness typical of children. Because I didn't know how to do that, Ethan. But now you do? I'm still learning. You don't need to know much. We just want you to like us. The simplicity of that answer touched Mrs. Thompson more than any elaborate speech. Emma and Ava were more reserved at first, but they soon won her over with their patience when they asked about the fruit or wanted to help arrange the apples. Robert watched it all with satisfaction. Jennifer would have been happy seeing this family coming together after so long apart. 2 weeks after the revelation, something unexpected happened. Ashley was at the market when she felt a sharp pain in her abdomen. Robert, she called, leaning on the counter. What's wrong? I think the baby's coming. The entire market froze. Mrs. Thompson dropped everything and ran to her sister. Let's go to the hospital, now. Robert quickly closed the stall, and they rushed to his car. The whole way there, Mrs. Thompson held Ashley's hand, the first time since they'd reunited. Everything will be fine, she repeated. Everything will be fine. At the hospital, the doctors confirmed the baby was coming prematurely in the 8th month. The situation was risky but not hopeless. You need to stay calm, the nurse told Ashley. Stress can complicate the delivery. Mrs. Thompson and Robert waited outside the delivery room for hours. It was the first time they'd been together in such a tense situation, and it brought them closer in an unexpected way. Robert, if anything happens, nothing will happen. But if it does, will you take care of her children? Of course. But it won't be necessary. And I'll help too. I want to be the aunt I never was. At 5 in the morning, a nurse came with news. The baby was born. It's a boy. He's in the NICU because his lungs aren't fully developed yet, but the doctors are optimistic. And Ashley? She's fine. Tired, but fine. When they could finally see Ashley, she was pale, but smiling. It's a boy, she said weakly. I'll name him Noah, like the angel who protects children. Noah is a beautiful name, said Mrs. Thompson, touching her sister's face for the first time in 30 years. Do you want to meet your nieces? They're probably waking up now at the boarding house. I'd love to. Robert went to get the children while Mrs. Thompson stayed with Ashley at the hospital. It was strange yet natural, this division of care. When Ethan, Emma and Ava arrived at the hospital and learned they had a baby brother, their joy was contagious. The fact that he was in the NICU worried them, but the nurse explained it was normal for babies born a little early. Can I see him? Ethan asked. Yes, but you have to wash your hands well and stay quiet. The sight of the 8-year-old boy looking at his newborn brother through the incubator glass moved everyone present. He's so small, Emma observed. But he'll grow up strong, said Mrs. Thompson. The babies in our family have always been fighters. It was the first time she had referred to them as our family, and Ashley understood the weight of those words. During the days Noah was in the NICU, a routine settled in. Robert took care of the children in the morning and worked at the market in the afternoon. Mrs. Thompson spent mornings at the hospital with Ashley and only worked half days. You don't have to stay here with me all the time, Ashley said. Yes, I do. I have 30 years of care to make up for. You know it doesn't work like that, right? You can't get back lost time. But we can stop wasting more time. We can start over. Noah spent 12 days in the NICU. When he was finally discharged, half the farmers' market came to visit him. The story of the two sisters reuniting had spread, and the local community was moved by the happy ending. Mr. Williams, the elderly man who had defended Ashley during the argument, was one of the first to visit the baby. This boy will bring luck to the whole family, he said. Babies who fight to survive always grow up to be special people. Mrs. Parker, the boarding house neighbor, organized a collection among the residents to buy clothes and diapers for Noah. The outpouring of support surprised even Ashley, who wasn't used to receiving so much kindness. That's how a real community works, Robert explained. When someone we know is struggling, everyone helps. I've never had that before. Now you do. Now you're part of something bigger. With Noah at home, Ashley's life changed completely. She couldn't work outside because of the baby, but Mrs. Thompson came up with a solution. How about working at the market with me? You can bring Noah and the other kids after school. Doing what? Helping at the register, organizing stock, assisting customers. You're good with people. How do you know that? Because I saw how you stood up for Robert during our argument. You're brave and honest, the most important qualities for working with the public. The offer was tempting, but Ashley was hesitant. What if it doesn't work out? What if the customers don't like me? Then we try something else, but I'm sure it'll work. Robert supported the idea enthusiastically. Jennifer always said the best employees are the ones who know what it's like to need help. You know how to value hard work. Ashley started working at the market 3 weeks after Noah was born. At first, it was hard to balance the baby with her work responsibilities, but little by little she found her rhythm. The customers soon got used to her presence, and many began seeking her out specifically. Ashley had a natural way of talking to people, understanding their needs and making spot-on recommendations. This girl has a gift, remarked Mrs. Miller, a regular customer. She always knows exactly which fruit is perfectly ripe. That's because she picks them the way she'd want someone to pick for her, explained Robert Johnson. Over the following months, the bond between Ashley and Mrs. Thompson grew stronger gradually. It wasn't an easy process. There were days when old resentments surfaced, moments when the two clashed over differences in raising the kids or running the business. "You're too lenient with them," Mrs. Thompson would say when she saw Ashley letting the kids play between the fruit crates. "And you're too strict," Ashley would reply. "They're children, they need to play. They also need to learn discipline. They'll learn, but it doesn't have to be with scolding all the time." Robert often mediated these discussions, reminding both that they were learning to be a family after decades apart. "You both want what's best for the kids," he'd say. "You just disagree on how to get there." Over time, they found a balance. Mrs. Thompson learned to be more flexible, and Ashley accepted that some rules were necessary. The turning point in their relationship came 6 months after Noah's birth. The baby had developed pneumonia and had to be hospitalized again. Ashley was beside herself. Noah was so small, so fragile, and the thought of losing him terrified her. "What if he doesn't make it?" she sobbed in Mrs. Thompson's arms. "What if I lose my son?" "You won't. He's strong, just like his mother." "I'm not strong, I'm scared to death." "Being scared doesn't mean you're not strong, it means you're human." For the 4 days Noah was in the hospital, Mrs. Thompson never left Ashley's side. She slept in the hospital chair, brought food, took care of the other kids, and handled all the market responsibilities. "Why are you doing this?" Ashley asked one night. "Because that's what sisters do. They take care of each other in hard times." "Even when one of them abandoned the other?" "Especially when one of them abandoned the other. Some wounds only heal with extra care." Noah recovered fully from pneumonia and came home stronger than before. The near loss brought the family together in a way that lasted. "Now we're a real family," Ethan said one evening as they all gathered in the small dining room at Gary's boarding house. "We always were," Ashley replied. "We just didn't know it." "What about Uncle Robert? Is he family too?" Emma asked. Robert, who was feeding Noah with a bottle, smiled. "If you'll have me." "We will," the 3 kids shouted in unison. "Then I am. I'm the honorary Uncle Jennifer sent to look after you." A year after Noah's birth, big changes came to all their lives. Ashley became a partner in the market after Mrs. Thompson decided to officially share the business with her. "It's yours by right," she explained. "That's what our parents wanted, for us to stay together and take care of each other. But you built this business alone for decades. I built it thinking of you. I always knew we'd find each other again." The market thrived under the sisters' management. Ashley brought a youthful and innovative energy, suggesting layout changes, service improvements, and partnerships with local producers. Mrs. Thompson contributed with her experience and business knowledge. Robert Johnson continued working with them, but now as a minor partner and primarily as the father figure the children needed. The biggest change, however, was in the house they lived in. With the stable income from the market, they managed to rent a larger home where each child had their own room and there was space for everyone to gather comfortably. "This is the first time I've had a real home," Ashley said on moving day. "This is the first time I've had a real family," Mrs. Thompson replied. Noah, who was now crawling all over the house and exploring every corner with curiosity, became the center of everyone's attention. Ethan helped him take his first steps. Emma invented games for him, and Ava always shared her toys. "He's lucky to have older siblings," Robert remarked. "We're all lucky to have each other," Ashley replied. On a Sunday afternoon, 2 years after their first meeting at the market, the whole family was gathered in the backyard of their new home. Noah, now a year and a half old, chased butterflies while the other siblings played tag. Robert was grilling, Mrs. Thompson arranged a fruit salad, and Ashley nursed the newest member of the family, a baby girl named Jennifer, born 6 months earlier. "Do you think the original Jennifer would be happy seeing all this?" Ashley asked. "I'm sure of it," Robert answered. "She always said family wasn't about blood, but about choices, about choosing to love and care for people even when it's hard." "And did we choose right?" "You chose to forgive. There's no choice more right than that." Mrs. Thompson approached them holding an old photo, the same one that had fallen from Ashley's bag on the first day. "Ashley, do you want to keep this photo again?" "No, I want you to keep it." "Why?" "Because now I have new photos, with our whole family together. The past was important to bring us here, but what really matters is the future we're building together." Mrs. Thompson smiled and tucked the photo into her pocket. "Then let's build the best future possible," That afternoon, as she watched Noah play with his siblings, Ashley thought about how unpredictable life could be. A simple question about overripe fruit had completely changed all their destinies. The bruised fruit, which she thought no one wanted, had turned out to be the start of something sweet and nourishing. Just like her family, seemingly imperfect, with scars from the past, but full of love and possibilities. "Mom," Ethan called. "Noah wants an apple." "Give him one of the bruised ones," Ashley shouted back. "They're the sweetest." Robert laughed, remembering the first time he had filled her bag with fruit. "The best things in life always come in disguise," he murmured. "What do you mean?" Jennifer used to say that. That the greatest blessings arrive looking like problems, the best people come in the hardest times, and the best families form in the most unexpected ways. She was right. She always was. As the sun set and the family gathered for dinner, Ashley looked around the table and saw smiling faces, lively conversations, kids bickering over silly things, simple food made with love. It was exactly what she had always dreamed of having, but never believed was possible. And it had all started with a humble question about fruit that was past its prime. Sometimes, she thought, the oldest and seemingly worthless things hold the most surprising flavors. Just like families reunited after decades apart, just like love that blossoms from the most unexpected places, just like happiness born from forgiveness. Noah laughed out loud when Emma made a silly face at him, and the sound of that laughter filled Ashley's heart with deep gratitude. She had begun this journey simply wanting fruit to feed her children. She ended up discovering that life had saved an entire feast for her. End of story. Now, tell us what you thought of the story and where you're watching from. If you have something to share with us, leave your heartfelt words in the comments. Do you believe Ashley and Mrs. Thompson made the right decisions? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to like the video, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other heartwarming stories.